Hello guys, and thank you for joining me. My name is Eugen, and today I will be experimenting with the Wingsung or Yongsheng 237. The fountain pen looked very interesting and caught my eye for the acrylic look that it has and the nib that it comes with, a Triumph nib. Unfortunately though, it wasn't exactly what I was expecting it to be, and in the end I am a little bit disappointed in what I received. Now the pen does come in a few other colors, and personally I went for this yellow, or what I like to call mango slushy chunks color. I ended up paying around 25 Canadian dollars plus an additional 6 Canadian dollars for shipping. If you're curious in weight or dimensions, you can find them in the description below. Now, going through the pen. Well, first of all, the cap it's simple, it's pretty crude, but it does the job from what I can tell. It comes with a very simple clip. It looks like a bar that was bended and stamped for I guess the hole that it has in order where the finial clips it in. The finial is simple. I assume it's some sort of aluminum. It feels light to the touch, and it's just flat, same as the end of it. I think it's aluminum as well, and it looks flat. It doesn't feel like it's a lot of weight in the barrel. And the cap, it's, I mean, simple, stylish in its own way with the stripes that it has on it. You have the Chinese characters for what I assume says Wingsung, and then the model number 237, and on the back it says made in China. Again, the clip is very simple, very crude, not very crude, but not very elegant either, and a little bit sharp on the edges, but not something that will cut your hands. It's just that you feel those edges. And this is how it looks like when you have it in your shirt, if you plan to have it in your shirt. And from what I can tell from this copy that I have, the clip doesn't snag at all. And at the same time, it's fairly springy, and I think it will do the job okay. I don't think it's an issue there. Now, again, going back to the pictures, when I look at the pictures, as you can see, the pictures shows the pen in a pretty good, perfect condition, but in all the pictures that they show, they hide one thing, and that's what disappointed me. Basically, again, going to the acrylic part, you can see that, I mean, the feeling that you'll have is that this is a turned acrylic, which is not the case, because as I was turning the pen, I've seen a seam all along the edge of the barrel. And that to me doesn't look right, because you won't get that in an actual turned acrylic. And at the same time, after removing the cap, you have the same seam on the section, and they don't even line up. I mean, maybe it's asking too much, but again, it's a little bit odd. And as you can see, it does have some depth to it and a little bit of chatoyance, and that was even more confusing until, well, I removed the barrel. And I'll try and bring you a little bit closer. As you can see, there's an edge all around the fountain pen, and it looks like either they use like sheet of acrylic, like a very thin sheet that they cut and wrapped around a plastic barrel. As you can see, it's a solid color inside. And the only thing that I can think it's, I don't think it's paper, but because it has some thickness to it. Now the other thing is that on their auction, they're actually saying that this is fountain pen bag, accidental fountain pen, xylonite. And I don't think this is that either, because xylonite has a different look and feel to it. And again, it's not something that is just wrapped around. This is how xylonite looks like as far as I know. and this is not it. If you have any idea what type of material this is, or if it's what I thought it is, like a acrylic paper thin sheet that is wrapped around, please let me know. I'm actually curious. And that was the disappointed part in the pen. I actually thought this was a turn acrylic and turned out not to be that. And well, I mean, if it doesn't bother you, I think the pen it's okay looking, nothing wrong with it. It's just, honestly, if I would have seen this from the beginning, I would have probably not purchased the pen. Unfortunately, as you've seen from the pictures and from all the pictures that they've shown, they took those pictures very carefully to make sure they turned the pens in such a way that, or maybe they photoshopped it, I'm not sure. Anyway, bottom line is they make sure that that seam doesn't show. Anywho, with that aside and going back to the pen, as you can see, the section and the barrel are coming in the same color, which that's quite neat. And the pen does come with a Triumph nib made out of steel, but gold looking. And this is a very generic Triumph nib that comes from China, and you pretty much see them on most of the pens that are coming with this type of nib. And to satisfy the curiosity of those that are interested in this, on the left side you have a Shepherd Triumph steel nib, and on the right side you have a Shepherd Triumph 14K gold nib. And the the Chinese Triumph nib, it's somewhere in the middle size-wise between the steel and gold nib. Compared with the Triumph nib, though, Shepherd Triumph nib, the Chinese Triumph nib is just pointing downwards, while both steel and gold nibs from Shepherd, they are a little bit pointing up. Moving away from the nib, once you remove the barrel, the filling system for this fountain pen is basically the aromatic or vacuumatic type of system that you have in all the other earlier Hero fountain pens that were copies of the Parker 51. One thing that I did not mention is that the pen does post. It's a little bit top heavy once you post it, especially if you keep it in here. You don't feel it that bad, but you do feel it. However, if you're more in this position and you keep it a little bit more upright, the weight is actually not that bad. I'm not sure exactly what I'm gonna prefer, but I'll try both of them and I'll tell you at the end what I think of it. Unposted, the balance of the pen is somewhere in there, and posted, the balance shifts quite a lot, almost pretty much on the cap. It's not before the cap. And it posts pretty deep and secure, like I mentioned, a little bit more than halfway in. And this is the fountain pen. Not a lot of other things to say about it. Seems to be pretty well built. We will see how it's going to perform. The nib seemed to be fairly smooth on the paper without ink, but I guess we're about to find out how good it is. So let me go through the process of filling it up, writing demonstrations, and then go through the drawing. For today's drawing, I was planning to use a new ink. This ink was recommended by one of my viewers. Thank you. I haven't tried it yet. I'm actually curious how it's going to be, and since this fountain pen disappointed me a little bit, I decided to punish it and be my little rap rat with this ink. Apparently this ink is supposed to be more of a permanent ink, I guess carbon based. And let's see what it is. It is a black. They come in different colors. I choose to keep it simple. And the way, again, I've shown in one of my previous videos with a Hero fountain pen, the way I like to fill these is by actually removing this metal sleeve. It's much easier to fill it up. And basically I just hold it here. The trick here is that you have to press again from the top down and then just quickly release it without dropping it. So let's try and do this. You'll have to do this a couple of times, and once you're done, it will be mostly filled with a little bit of air bubbles here and there. Don't forget to put the sleeve back on gently so you don't actually spill ink out. The pen seems to be cleaning quite nicely. This ink didn't stain the pen yet. It looks like when using darker inks, your section will actually change color a little bit. You could sort of see the color through it. So basically your section now it's a little bit darker in value than the barrel. And going through a quick writing sample. Let's try it first without posting it. Okay, he's now writing. Okay, give me a second, I'll be right back. Alright, I'm back. I got it working. Not sure why I didn't want to write. I had to drop a few ink droplets, but now seems to be fine. So this will be seems to be okay. Reverse sort of works, but it seems like it's a little bit drier. Might be actually useful. I mean, I'm not sure how useful it will be for the drawing that I have planned, but I guess we shall see. So it seems to be working fairly well. The nib is fairly wet. And the line, it's actually a nice fine line. I would say maybe close to a 0.5 millimeter from what I can see. So in theory, it should actually work very nicely for the drawing that I have planned. For today's drawing, I took inspiration from one of the pictures from NASA. I end up looking at a few pictures that they took of Jupiter and close-up pictures of the storms that they had. And basically, my plan is to try and draw some of the storms on Jupiter. I'll be honest with you, it's I think it's going to be a little bit challenging. I'm not sure exactly how it's going to turn out. I sort of have a plan on how I want it to look like. Basically, it's going to be just hashing. It's first time when I'm experimenting with this. And I'll be honest, I'm a little bit scared because I'm not sure how badly it will turn out. So, but I guess we will discover that together. So I'm gonna start going through the drawing, and hopefully you will enjoy the process, and I'll let you know what I think of this pen. While I'm speeding through the drawing in the background, I would like to first of all address, well, the drawing. It didn't turn out that amazing, and I'm not sure that using alcohol markers in the end helped it either. But in the process, I think I have learned something new. I think I have a better understanding on how to mimic and draw the airflow, and I will be returning to this type of subject sometime in the near future for sure. It took a little bit of time. In total, I believe it was around 3 hours and a half. But I have to admit that the process was very therapeutic and I really enjoyed it. 10 out of 10 will do it again. So yeah, don't be surprised if I'm gonna return to this sometime in the future. Second, I want to address the ink that I used. I actually really liked it, and it definitely has some water resistance. I did a small test where I put a water droplet on some test lines and left it there until it dried out. And I gotta be honest about it, I've seen no bleeding, and I've used exactly the same type of paper that I'm using in the drawing that you see right now. Another test that I did, I used a wet brush to rub some other test lines that I did, and it did wash away like very, very little. So basically the white around the lines, it wasn't white anymore, it was just a little bit of ever so slightly grayish, but the lines were very quite sharp and well defined. And I think from memory I would compare this with a platinum black carbon ink, maybe better. Not sure, I will have to maybe make some time and test them both. Maybe I'll do that next time whenever I'll use either of the inks. Overall though, I am impressed and I will be using it again for sure. And I do plan to get the other colors they had. I think they had a blue-black, a blue, and a red. By the way, this black is not 100% like a deep black. It's more of a carbon grayish black. Basically, again, from what I remember, seems to be very similar with platinum ink. And finally, addressing the fountain pen. Well, I will admit that my feelings for the pen were a little bit diluted by the fact that, I got disappointed for not being made out of turned acrylic. I mean, to me, that was just false advertising in my eyes. You obviously show something, you make people believe something. And you obviously made the effort to hide some things that will basically make people maybe not buy the product. So that to me, it's what gets me the most. Not necessarily that it wasn't actually turned acrylic. It's just the honesty behind the ad for this product. Anyway, the seams on the pen do bother me a little bit in the end, but I think if I would knew about them from the beginning, I would have probably been okay with it. With that said though, never for one moment have I looked at the pen while I was doing the drawing. I was more absorbed by the process and trying to figure out how to draw and create the feeling of the airflow rather than how the pen looked like. So functionally, I have to say the pen did not stand between me and whatever I was trying to do. It actually performed very well, and it was quite neutral in the process. The nib was smooth, and with this new ink that I used, the flow was just perfect for what I like, or at least from my opinion. Not very wet, not very dry, just perfect or ideal for me. Hard to fault the fountain pen in that regard. Now in the end, I did prefer to use the pen posted rather than not. Without the cap, the pen felt maybe a little bit too light. It kind of gave me the feeling that I'm not 100% in control of the lines. Adding the cap, it balanced the pen a little bit better, especially how I was holding it while I was doing the drawing. So I guess to summarize the likes and dislikes on this pen, the likes, lightweight, decent build overall, posts well, even though maybe it's a little bit back-weighted depending how you're holding it, caps well, comfortable grip, good looking as long as, you know, the seams don't bother you, and the nib on the copy I received was well behaved, smooth, consistent, and with the exception of the refusal to write the first time you touch the paper, I never had an issue afterwards. The dislikes, well, I think I repeated this enough, but for the last time, the major complaint from my side was, well, it tried to pass itself at something that it wasn't, and that for me was the disappointment in this pen. And the other nitpicking things, I think the cap, it's maybe a little bit crude and has some sharp edges, especially on the clip. And also the filling system might not be on everyone's liking. I know some people really hate it. I mean, each to its own in the end, and I respect that. Nothing wrong with it. If you don't like it, you don't like it. The other nitpicking, like I already mentioned, maybe it's a little bit back-weighted when posted, even though I do not consider it a major issue, in my perspective at least. And I think that's about it. That's all I have to say about the pen. I like how it's performing. I can't fault it in there, and I have to admit, overall, I do like it. If you have any other questions that I might have not addressed, drop your questions in the comment section below and I will do my best to answer them as soon as possible. And well, I guess with that said, I will stop talking here and let you enjoy the rest of the drawing if it's your kind of cup of tea. And I wish you a wonderful day or night, wherever you are, and all the best. I will see you next time. Take care. Bye.